Greetings to you, Sir Richard Dalton, former UK ambassador to Iran.
Thank you very much indeed. It's good to hear from you.
Sir Richard, in early October, you led a 25-member delegation to Iran, apparently on a business trip. It was a trip to assess the investment opportunities in Iran. We would like to know about this trip, how it was organized, who was behind it. Tell us a little bit more about it, please.
Yes, it was organized by the British-Iranian Chamber of Commerce, based in London, which is a business organization with many members, both British companies and British-Iranian companies, who want to foster closer commercial relations to the benefit of both countries with Iran. And I am the president of the British-Iranian Chamber, and I led the delegation. We were indebted to the Irano-British Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Mines, our counterpart organization, whom we have worked with in the past for many of the arrangements made in Tehran itself. We had 3.5 working days. We saw several Iranian ministers. We were well received. The mood was good. We came away optimistic. We were able to present the credentials and hopes of a range of companies in different sectors, construction, oil and gas upstream investment, engineering equipment for oil and gas and other industries, communications, legal services, accountancy, and airline services, aircraft leasing. And I believe that all of them had profitable contacts with their own sectors and potential Iranian agents, if they don't have them already. The delegations had collective meetings with the Iranian business people represented in the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Tehran, and we were able to push forward the revival of British commerce and investment around.
Could you name some of the companies that were involved in this trip?
Well, that's really for them to do. All I can say really is that both in the British Chamber and outside it, there are a great many good and well-known British names of companies exploring potential for what they do in Iran, some resuming contacts, some starting them afresh. We went as part of a coordinated activities, which has included the trade delegation that went at the end of August with our Foreign Secretary, Philip Hammond, and there will be further delegations subject to agreement with the Iranian authorities led by British ministers. So although British trade suffered more than that of some others, and we've got a lot of hard work to do, we are convinced that it is important for Britain to get back into Tehran, and we were assured by Iranian authorities and by Iranian business people that there is demand for British technology, for British investment, for British skills, and for the many ways in which we used to cooperate in the past to be resumed and developed further.
Yeah. How hopeful you and the members of the team were about the achievements of this trip, that something will come out of it? Or was it just talk, just to
No, we were
test
very
the waters?
hopeful. As you know, a great deal of trade is subject to sanctions. So what most of the companies were doing were positioning themselves to be able to make concrete offers as and when opportunities arise once the sanctions are lifted. Other companies in the group have traded with Iran without any interruption throughout the difficult years, and we benefit from the knowledge and skills of that group of companies being present in the delegation. We had a company, for example, that's doing good business with Iran on medical goods, pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. They've had great difficulty with the financial side of the transaction, getting payment made, but it's been possible to achieve, and we look forward to a time when, with the financial restrictions removed and payment channels of a more regular kind re-established, that trade can flourish.
Yeah, I understand only the second-tier banks representatives were on this trip, not the major UK banks. Can you confirm this, and can you tell us why representatives of the big banks were not involved?
We had an investment bank looking for opportunities to partner with companies doing work upstream in the oil and gas industry. We didn't have any retail banks on our mission, and I think the reason for that is well known, namely that the sanctions are still in place, and the big British clearing banks who used to work with Iran have to be extremely cautious. Some of them are still subject to agreement with United States authorities, which involved big fines. And as the Persian proverb says, he who was bitten by a snake is scared of
مارگزیده از ریسمان سیاه و سفید می‌ترسد.
Whereas the Iranian banks were able to talk to us, we weren't able on this occasion to bring any British banks to meet them.
I just translated that Persian proverb. It means مارگزیده از ریسمان سیاه و سفید می‌ترسد. Sir Richard, more than 10 trade delegations have visited Iran since this Vienna Pact was reached between Iran and P5+1, including Germans, French, Italian firms. Could you tell us where does UK stand if you were to categorize them, these 10 delegations? Where is the UK stand?
Well, Britain's political problems with Iran, which go back many years, have meant that we have sometimes suffered from discrimination against us by the Iranian authorities. Also, some British companies have been reluctant to get involved in Iran. Moreover, the British government, at a time when I was no longer working in the British diplomatic service, so I had no connection with policy decisions, the British government took a harsh attitude towards trade with Iran. That was part of the collective signal which was being sent by the European Union that concessions needed to be made by Iran in order to ensure a successful outcome to the nuclear talks. But it did have the effect of depressing British trade, and many companies that used to work with Iran are no longer doing so. And we in the British Iranian Chamber see it as a big part of our job to encourage those companies with facts and a fair assessment of the opportunities and risks to get back into the Iranian market. So we will be conducting a program of activities over the next year, for as long as it takes, to ensure that the message gets out that an essential part of implementing the nuclear deal is a restoration of normal commercial
Do you foresee any competition between UK and other European firms in getting into Iranian market?
Undoubtedly. I mean, European trade with Iran suffered dramatically. Instead of having the lion's share of the market, the lion's share of the market was taken by companies to the east of Iran, including China. So there's not only global competition involving countries with very considerable capabilities all around Iran, but there's also strong competition from within the European Union. Britain's position in trade with Iran was, for example, never as strong as the position of Germany and Italy, and we were closer to the figures that France was able to achieve, but still there was some considerable distance between us and them. So yes, there will be competition, and we're determined to do everything we can as a Chamber of Commerce to ensure that British companies can increase their share of the Iranian market.
Do you think that UK would be in the first list of five countries doing business with Iran in the next year or so?
No, I don't think so. I think it will take longer than a year.
Sir Richard, there is always, this problem of rule of law in Iran, that we know that Iranians are so many different, organs of power in Iran, and there is always this fear that if, foreigners go inside Iran, they might get involved with the security forces, with the Ministry of the Intelligence. As we had an experience a few days ago, I heard there was a report by Iran Wire about a U.S. businessman, U.S.-Iranian businessman, who went to Iran in the hopes of, gaining some contracts, and he was arrested by the security people. Do UK companies have this fear that they might run into problems with Iranians in the future if they get too involved?
Yes, I imagine that they do, although it didn't arise with any member of the delegation. I mean, there's different aspects of this question. The arrest of foreign business people is extremely rare. I mean, thousands of visits take place without any such incidents. More of a problem is that certain Iranian institutions and individuals will remain on the sanctions lists after nuclear-related sanctions are lifted. And that is because some of the sanctions initiated, particularly in the United States, predate the nuclear sanctions and will survive beyond it. So it's going to be very important for all foreign companies to know who they're really doing business with. They'll be encouraging Iranian firms and the Iranian authorities to be as transparent as possible about who the ultimate owners of the company are. It's a general rule of international trade that you should know your customer, you should know who it is you're dealing with. And that presents a few problems in Iran, given the number of cross-shareholdings that exist between the different funds and the different institutions that are involved. Clearly, with the Iranian private sector, it can be easier. A very high proportion of Iran's trade does go through government or partly governmental bodies. This is a subject which we discussed in Iran. We sought information as to how to obtain transparencies to assist companies. But of course, all European, all external companies are in the same boat when it comes to addressing this problem. It's a problem that everybody's going to have to solve.
Also, there's that problem of the snapback sanctions. Not problem, actually. A clause, a part of the Vienna Agreement is that if Iran does not adhere to the terms of this deal, they will bring back the sanctions within 65 days, if I'm not mistaken. Are the major UK banks worried about this matter? I heard about some complaints that one of the bankers made that there is this problem and we are not really happy with it, and that's we might not we might not grab the opportunity as it comes to us because of the fear of the snapback sanctions.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, every transaction between one country and another is subject to analysis of risk, and companies have different appetites for risk. And some financial institutions, some companies, won't want to have anything to do with Iran. That's true. Others will consider more carefully what the nature of the risk is that Iran will not observe the agreement. What I say to people is that there is a very high degree of certainty that Iran will observe the agreement because it is overwhelmingly in Iran's interest to do so. and the agreement is well crafted to ensure that the incentives to both sides to honor the agreement are strong. But let's consider for a moment the idea of a long-term financing contract to provide lending for a major oil and gas project, which is going to be executed over 5 years, so the finance is going to be drawn down over 5 years. The financial institutions are going to have to ask themselves whether there is a risk of the sanctions being reimposed. They can take a view, as I have, about the risk of either side breaking the agreement. They can also prepare contractual provisions which enable them to avoid the risk of financial loss if sanctions are restored. So the lawyers are going to have to look at imaginative wording for contracts to minimize the risk of financial loss in the event of reimposition of sanctions, and thus to enable companies to be encouraged to do business with Iran in the first place. Now, I think that this is entirely possible, and particularly with the help and assistance of the Iranian authorities, these problems can be addressed and solutions
Sir Richard,
found.
you are a former diplomat, you are a man of politics. When you were in Iran, did you have a chance to talk to the Iranian authorities about some politics, about some diplomatic matters, like a problem in Syria, in Yemen, in Bahrain? Did you meet the foreign minister, by the way?
No, I didn't. We were received by the Minister for Industry, Trade and Mines, Dr. Nematzadeh. He was the most senior authority in Iran whom we met, and we were very grateful for the opportunity to talk to him and to get assurances from him about the way in which British trade would be viewed. Not with him nor with anybody else was politics discussed. This was a commercial delegation, so we looked at economic questions. We looked at how the Iranian state budget might be affected next year by the many pressures on it, both on the expenditure side. We looked at the prospects for inflation. We asked questions about Iran's priorities in the next 5-year plan. These were the areas, examples of what we were talking about, in addition to putting forward the offering which our delegates had to make.
Discussion about the matters like Syria or Bahrain or Yemen with Iranians? I see.
No.
Is there anything else you want to add to this conversation that I may have not? I may have overlooked.
Well, you've been very kind, and I don't think that there is.
Thank you so much, and have a nice
day, sir.